Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the FuriBee DarkMax. This is a 220mm racing drone. Set the drone aside here for a second and we'll go over all the stuff that comes in the box first and set that aside. So you get these GemFan, two sets of these, 5152 flash props, tri-bladed. Kind of look like Cyclones a little bit, but they're really aggressively pitched. We'll have to see how efficient they are in terms of being a battery killer or not. But you get a set of black ones and a set of clear ones. You get a couple of these Velcro straps here, and that's for the integrated GoPro mount here. You got some slots here for that. That's what these are for. You get a whip antenna here. It goes in the back here for the video transmitter. It's an RP SMA antenna. I'm not sure if I'll be using this. I'll probably just use it for the first flight, see what the video is like. Get some additional screws and lock nuts for the motors. And they're including this cable here for your receiver. Mine happen to have, comes with a FlySky receiver. It does come in FreeSky and DSMX, but I believe that if you get the PPM version, or sorry, if you get the plug-and-play version, then you just get the receiver cable only. Okay, so here's a look at the drone itself. Comes with DYS motors here, and these are the SR2205 2550 kV Racer Edition. I've not seen these motors before anywhere, but they seem smooth, and they are capable of up to 6S if you want to fly this on 6S, although I don't have any 5 or 6S batteries, so I'll just be flying it normally on 4S, probably got 1300 or 1500. The flight stack here is pretty simple. You got a 30 amp 401 ESC BLHL8S. It does have a current sensor on the bottom there, and you can't really see it, but yeah, you can kind of see it from this cutout here. That's right there. Not sure if it's connected to the flight controller or not. The flight controller is interesting. It's a combination video transmitter and F4 flight controller. So the video transmitter part will do 25, 100, and 200, I believe. And the flight controller also has a small buzzer on there. This also has the Betaflight OSD, and it also has a SD card slot right there, which is pretty much impossible to see and really hard to get to, I imagine. It's right there, and so if you want to do black box logging, you can. So if you somehow can get a micro SD card into that little slot back there, you can do that. They have my FlySky receiver just on the top, although I'm not sure I'm going to be using this one because this one is really a micro receiver, so I'm probably going to be switching it out for a bigger receiver, just because when you're flying away from yourself here, all this carbon is going to be in the way and blocking the signal. So not so sure about the range of this receiver and the location of that, so I'll either move it or replace it with something else. It's not a big deal. The camera that this comes with is like, I think it's the same one that's in the FuriBee X215. They say it's a CCD camera, and I'm pretty sure this is the eSheen C800T that I reviewed a while back, and that's a 16:9 camera, and this one is probably just CMOS, just like that one. And it has the same OSD joystick button that's on the back of the camera, but in this case it's going to be pretty much impossible to access without taking the top apart, because it's behind the standoff here, and you need to be able to press that button and move the joystick around to be able to change any of your camera settings. So most likely I'll just be flying with the default settings, which is fine. It's a pretty decent camera overall, I thought anyway. From the flights that I took with the FuriBee, the camera seemed fine. It was good color reproduction, a good solid image overall. Now this frame is kind of interesting. It does come with an integrated GoPro mount here, so you stick your GoPro here. It's a supposedly about 30-degree angle, and it's got a slot here for your Velcro strap to hold it on. So I'll probably do a flight without the GoPro and then do one with the GoPro, though. I don't really like flying with the GoPros on my 5-inch racers because they just seem very heavy in the air. Overall, the construction of the frame seems pretty solid. I mean, I tried to bend the bottom plate here, and it's not bending at all. It is a 4mm bottom plate. I believe it's 3K carbon. It feels very solid and sturdy, so I think this should do pretty well in terms of durability and crashes. The bottom itself is completely flat here. You can see that all the screws are countersunk. And then that if you want to have access to your flight stack or change your camera settings, you just have to take off these or loosen up these 4 screws here that go into these nuts here that hold the side plates on, and then you should be able to take the top off and get access to that. I'll probably need to do that to swap out my receiver, and then I'll just check my camera settings to make sure that they're okay. But I like the fact that everything is nice and flat here so that you don't get any screw heads digging into your battery, which is nice. Now mine didn't come with a battery strap, but it's not a big deal. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I happen to have a bunch of battery straps, so I'll just be using one of my own for this particular model. Okay, so we're just going to get a weight measurement of this thing. I think it's probably about 300 grams. Oh, wow, okay, I was way off. 258 grams, 258, 59 grams. Pretty light, actually. Just it feels heavier than that for some reason. But apparently scale says it's only 259 grams. Okay, so I'll take this over to the computer and we'll plug it into Betaflight, take a look at the settings. I'm just going to change a few things, probably put my rates in there, my arming switch, for example, and then take it out to the field and fly it with the stock settings it came with. Okay, so here's a little addendum for you FlySky guys that are using current energy evolution and an iBus receiver. So I got an iBus receiver here. The default port here that the receiver is plugged into on UART1 is hardware inverted because this is an F4 board. So you have to use the Spectrum port here. I actually removed the Spectrum port and I direct soldered it to the signal here. This is also UART1, but this one is not hardware inverted. So you can leave it on UART1, and then you want to turn S-Bus inversion off in the CLI, and then it'll actually work. So you get power from the main port here, and then you're going to cut the signal off of this one over here and direct solder it to the DSMX connection here, and you will have iBus working at that point. Okay, we'll take a look at the settings on the DarkMax, and we've got Betaflight 317, not 32. It's got the Betaflight, it's got the Omnibus F4 board with the SD card, so the target or the hex file is going to be Omnibus F4 SD. And we have Serial RX on UART1. D-Shot 600 is enabled. 8 and 2 kilohertz for the gyro and PID loop. I've got my serial receiver and iBus enabled. Let's see here, we got LED strip on, black box on, SD card on, OSD on. I'm going to turn air mode on, as I usually fly with air mode on. And I'm going to adjust my VBAT settings down a little bit, just so the beeper isn't going off right away. Okay, these are the fail-safe settings. I'm just going to leave that alone. Here are the PID settings, and these look like default PIDs for 317, and I'm just going to leave this alone as well. These are all the receiver settings. You want to make sure that your channel map is correct and all the channels are moving in the correct direction. You want to check that here. No mode setup. I'm just going to set up a mode for switch arming on aux1. Let's see what's on the OSD. Okay, so we got just some clutter on here. I'm just going to go ahead and turn some of the stuff off. And that'll do it. That should be enough to get me in the air. We'll take a look at how this thing flies with all the basic stock settings it comes with. Here's a little bit of the footage from the FPV flight. The image from the FPV camera seems a little bit darker and a little bit more contrast than what you see in the GoPro footage. Although I like the color reproduction and overall the image looks okay. It's a little bit on the low resolution side for my taste, but it's okay in general. The actual reception back from the antenna, I think, is not so great, especially when you get a little bit further away and when the antenna is a little bit blocked, and it's because it's a linear whip antenna and it gets easily blocked by the larger 5-inch frame here. So in certain, when I'm kind of further away, you get more breakups in the video, and it's actually strangely better in the DVR footage than it was in the goggles. I thought it was worse in the goggles, but overall I thought it was not bad considering the antenna, and I would recommend putting a different antenna on here and replacing the whip antenna with something like a pagoda or circular polarized antenna. Overall, I think that it flies pretty well on the stock settings that came out of the box. This is with absolutely no tuning. There is a little bit of vibration on higher throttle, and that's probably due to the props, I'm thinking. You could probably either fix this with changing it to another set of props that are more balanced, and or soft mounting the motors if you don't want to change the props. I think that would go a long way in terms of getting rid of the vibration in the video, at least in the GoPro footage you see here, but it's not really that bad. Now in terms of the overall power of these motors and this whole power setup, I think that I think overall it's not bad, and flying with the GoPro, it's actually got some decent amount of power. But when I flew without the GoPro, it flew. I thought it flew better. It felt a lot lighter and more responsive. If you do fly with the GoPro, this is probably a little bit on the heavier side for setup. If you want a more responsive quad with a GoPro, you'd probably go with something a little bit lighter than this. But it still has enough power to definitely do all the maneuvers you want. You just have to put a little more thought into how you fly and anticipate the turns and stuff you're going to be making, because it's going to require a little bit more power in the turns to compensate for the additional weight. So this isn't the fastest 5-inch racer right there, but I think overall it's a pretty good value. I think with the coupons you can get them down to about $160, $170, something in that range. And it's easy to set up, it flies fairly well, and I think it's going to be very durable and crashes. Overall the construction is pretty solid, so definitely would check it out if you're interested in this kind of design, if you like this kind of flight. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.